The star system was quiet and empty. No ships had passed through these dark corners of space for many years. But today, something changed. The colony ship Mirai moved slowly through the darkness like a tired whale swimming through the ocean. Inside the ship, 3,000 human colonists slept in their pods or moved through the corridors. They did not know that something was watching them from the shadows of space. Minsu sat in the captain's chair on the bridge of the Mirai. He was 45 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had led this ship and these people for 5 years across the stars. Every day he checked the sensors, and every day he saw nothing but empty space. Today was different. Today the sensors screamed a warning. "Captain, we have multiple contacts," said his navigation officer, Dong Ho. His voice shook a little. "They are very large. They are moving towards us. They are moving very fast." Minsu stood up. He walked to the screen and looked at the red dots moving across the black space. His hands felt cold. He had seen training simulations about this. He had never thought it would really happen. "How far?" he asked. 5 minutes until they reach communication range," Dong Ho said. 10 minutes until they can attack us." Minsu took a breath. He had made many hard choices in his life. But this choice would change everything. "Wake up the people in the pods. Get as many as you can to the escape ships. Now, move fast. We do not have much time." The alarm bells rang out through the ship. Red lights started to flash. People ran through the corridors. Mothers picked up their children. Men helped old people move faster. It was chaos, but it was the kind of chaos that saved lives. A voice came through the speakers. It was not a human voice. It was deep and strange, like the sound of rocks falling down a mountain. "Human ship, you are in the territory of the Vorzath Collective. You will stop your engines. You will shut down your weapons. You will surrender all your resources. You have 1 minute to decide." Minsu looked at Dong Ho. They both knew what this meant. The Vorzath were apex predators. They had conquered most of the galaxy. They took what they wanted. They did not ask twice. "Do not answer them," Minsu said. "Keep the ships moving. Tell the escape pods to go to the moon. The big moon. Once they land, they must hide in the caves under the ground. Tell them to survive. That is their only job." The voice came again, even more angry. "Human ship, you do not obey. This is foolish." The first attack hit the ship hard. Alarms screamed. People fell down. Lights burst into sparks. The ship started to move slower. The engines were damaged. Minsu held onto his chair. He knew they could not run anymore. He knew they could not win this fight. But then Hai-Jin appeared on the bridge. She was 24 years old, and one of the smartest people on the ship. She was a linguist and also a scientist. She studied how other species thought and acted. She moved very fast even as the ship shook around her. "Captain, I know what they want," Hai-Jin said. She was not afraid. She had a plan in her eyes. "They want to see power. They think power comes from fighting. What if we give them something different? What if we give them someone to capture? What if we give them me?" Minsu looked at her with shock. "You want to be captured? By the Vorzath? You know what they do to prisoners?" "Yes," Hai-Jin said. "But I also know something about predators. They are arrogant. They think small creatures are not dangerous. They think they are the smartest and the strongest. And when they are arrogant, they make mistakes." Minsu understood what she was saying. He understood the plan. It was crazy and dangerous, but it might work. "Do it," he said. "But first I need to put something in your body. Something special. Something that will let you talk to us. Something that will help us later." They ran to the medical room. A doctor named Kyung-hee was there. She was very good at her job. In just 2 minutes, she put a small chip inside Hai-Jin's body. It was so small that no one could see it. This chip could send messages through space. This chip would let Hai-Jin talk to Minsu even when she was on the Vorzath ship. "Be brave," Kyung-hee said, and she touched Hai-Jin's hand. "Come home to us." Hai-Jin walked to the escape bay. The ship was falling apart around her. Sparks flew from the damaged walls. But she did not run. She walked slowly, and with purpose. She walked like she was not afraid. She stepped into a small room. She let the door lock behind her. This room was a trap. It would open to space. It would look like she was escaping. But really, she was walking into the arms of the Predators. The Vorzath ships caught her in a beam of light. The beam pulled her up and up into their big ship. Hyjin felt her body float. She felt cold. She felt scared. But she also felt something else. She felt ready. In the escape pods below, Minsu watched the tracker. He watched the signal of Hyjin moving through space. He watched her enter the enemy ship. He closed his eyes and made a prayer to whatever gods might be listening. The plan had started. Now they just had to wait and see if it would work. On the Vorzath flagship, guards with long teeth and strong claws took Hyjin from the capture beam. She was small. She looked like a small animal to them. They pushed her into a clear box made of hard light. Around her, Vorzath soldiers laughed. They laughed at how small she was. They laughed at how weak she looked. They did not know what would happen next. They did not know that they were already caught in a trap. They did not know that the hunt had already started, and they were the prey. The clear box around Hyjin was not dark or cold. It was the opposite. It was bright with white light. The light came from the walls themselves. She could see everything around her. She could see the Vorzath walking past. She could see how they looked at her. They looked at her the way a human might look at an insect trapped in glass. The Vorzath were big. The smallest one was 2.5 meters tall. Their bodies were covered in hard scales. Their arms had sharp claws at the ends. Their mouths had long teeth that showed when they laughed. And they laughed a lot. They laughed at Hyjin. They laughed at how small she was. They laughed at how weak she must be. Hyjin sat on the floor of the clear box. She did not move. She did not cry. She did not show fear. She just watched them with curious eyes. She studied their movements. She listened to their sounds. She learned. After many hours, the box moved. It moved through long hallways made of dark metal. Other Vorzath pointed at Hyjin as she passed. They made sounds in their own language. Hyjin's ear chip was recording all of it. Back on the moon, Minsu and the linguists were listening. They were trying to learn the Vorzath language. They were trying to understand what the aliens were saying. The box stopped in a large room. This room had high ceilings and walls made of shiny metal. There was a big chair at the top of the room. Sitting in the chair was a Vorzath. This one was bigger than the others. His scales were darker. His eyes were like cold fire. This was Teo, the commander of the ship. Next to Teo were other Vorzath. These ones wore different colors. They sat in chairs that formed a circle. This was the War Council. These were the leaders who decided what happened to prisoners and enemies. They decided who lived and who died. Teo stood up. He walked down to Hyjin's box. He looked at her like a parent might look at a small child. "So this is what humans look like," he said. His voice was deep and heavy. So soft, so weak, so pathetic. The other Vorzath in the council room laughed. They all laughed. The sound was like thunder rolling across a sky. "Your species tried to run from us," Teo said. "Your captain made a foolish choice. He should have surrendered. Instead, he sent you. Maybe he thinks you are special. Maybe he thinks you can bargain with us. But you are just a toy. You are nothing." Hyjin stood up. She looked directly at Teo. Her voice was quiet but clear. "Commander Teo, I want to learn about the Vorzath. I want to understand your great power and your great history. Would you tell me? I ask you this as a sign of respect." Teo was surprised. He was not used to prisoners asking him to talk. But he liked to talk. He liked to show off his knowledge. He liked to tell stories about his battles and his victories. He sat back in his chair and smiled. His teeth were very long and very sharp. "You want to know about the Vorzath?" he asked. "Yes, I will tell you. I will tell you about the greatest predators in the galaxy. Your species hunts other animals on your small planet. You have claws and teeth. You have strength and speed. But this does not make you apex predators. The Vorzath are apex predators. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have defeated 100 species. All of them thought they were strong. All of them thought they could fight us. All of them were wrong. We are the hunters. We are the kings. We are the top predators, and nothing can change this." Hyjin listened. She learned. She understood what Teo believed. He believed that being a predator meant having physical power. He believed that strength came from teeth and claws and muscles. He believed that fighting power made something the greatest hunter. But Heijin knew something different. She knew a secret. "Commander Teo, thank you for this knowledge," she said. "But I must ask one more question. I have been thinking about what makes a true apex predator. On my world, we have many predators. The big ones with teeth and claws. But there was another predator. This predator did not have the biggest teeth. This predator did not have the sharpest claws. But this predator hunted everything. This predator learned. This predator changed. This predator adapted. This predator survived when all others died. Do you know what I am talking about?" Teo did not answer. He just waited for her to continue. "That predator was the human," Heijin said. "On our world, humans were not the strongest. We were not the fastest. We did not have fangs or claws or armor. But we survived. We hunted, we learned. We adapted to every place. We conquered every animal bigger and faster than us. How not with strength? With intelligence. With strategy. With the refusal to accept defeat. A true apex predator is not the one with the biggest teeth. A true apex predator is the one that learns the fastest. A true apex predator is the one that never stops adapting." The room became very quiet. The other council members looked at each other. Teo looked down at Heijin. For a moment, his face showed something new. Was it doubt? Was it confusion? It passed quickly. He turned away. "You are clever with words, human," he said. "But words do not matter. Power matters. Strength matters. We will keep you in this box. You will watch as we use your people as slaves or food. This is what happens to species that are not apex predators." But Heijin smiled. Teo did not understand. None of the Vorzath understood. They were watching the wrong thing. They were looking at her and thinking about what they could do to her. They were not thinking about what she was doing to them. They did not know that she was planting ideas in their minds. They did not know that she was changing how they thought about what predators really were. Back on the moon, Minsu received a message through the hidden chip. It was just one word: ready. He knew what this meant. Heijin had learned what she needed. Heijin had seen how the Vorzath thought. Heijin had found their weakness. Now it was time for the next part of the plan. Now it was time for the hunters to become the hunted. Deep inside the Vorzath flagship, in a hidden control room on the moon, Yejun moved his fingers across the controls. He was a military strategist. His job was to think about war and how to win battles. Around him were dozens of screens showing the Vorzath ship. Green lines showed the rooms. Red lines showed the guards. Blue dots showed the weapons. "Sangwoo, do you have the access codes?" Yejun asked. He was looking at a screen that showed the ship's main computer. Sangwoo was sitting in front of a bigger screen than anyone else. His fingers moved very fast. He was typing code into his computer. The code was like a virus. It was a hidden program that would slip into the Vorzath computer system like a snake moving through tall grass. "Almost there," Sangwoo said. "Heijin's ship gave me the password from the security terminal. The Vorzath are not good at protecting their systems. They think no one can beat them. They do not think anyone would try to attack them from inside their own ship." "Perfect," Yejun said. "Once you get inside their computers, we move on the first phase. We disable the weapon systems, but slowly. Very slowly. We do not want them to notice all at once." "Understood," Sangwoo said. "In 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Done." On the Vorzath ship, something began to happen. It started very small. A weapon system in the front of the ship would not turn on properly. Then another weapon system in the back started to heat up too much. Then the targeting computers got confused. But none of this happened all at once. It happened slowly. It happened one small piece at a time. The Vorzath engineers started to notice. They sent messages up and down the chain of command. But there was no enemy attacking. There was no reason to believe this was on purpose. Maybe it was just old equipment. Maybe it just needed repair. The commander did not see any sign of danger. Down in the tunnels under the moon, Yejun's fighters were getting ready. They had trained for this moment. They had studied the Vorzath ships. They had learned how to move in zero gravity. They had learned how to fight without the loud noises and explosions. They had learned how to use the environment around them as a weapon. Jiwoo was the leader of these fighters. She was a woman of 30 years old. She had the eyes of someone who had lost much, but refused to break. She stood in front of her soldiers and spoke to them. "The Vorzath think we are weak," she said. "The Vorzath think we are not hunters, but they are wrong. Humans were born hunters. We do not hunt with big teeth. We hunt with our minds. We hunt by knowing our enemy. We hunt by never giving up. Today we show them what true predators are." The fighters moved like ghosts through the corridors of the Vorzath ship. They moved where the security systems did not work. They moved where the guards were not looking. They moved like water flowing around rocks. When they found a Vorzath guard, they did not fight. Fighting would bring too much noise. Instead, they used gas that made the guard sleep. They used quick, silent tactics. Heijin watched from her clear box. She watched the fighters move through the ship. She watched them disable the systems one by one. She knew that Yejun was directing them from the moon. She knew that the plan was working. But the Vorzath still did not understand. Then Heijin did something brave. She pressed her hand against the wall of her box. The hard light that made the box began to fail. There was a problem with the power system. The human fighters had disabled it. The box opened. Heijin stepped out. All around the ship, alarms began to sound. But it was too late. The Vorzath were confused. Their weapons did not work properly. Their communication was slow and broken. Their guards were missing. Everything was falling apart at the same time. Heijin ran through the corridors. Fighters appeared around her. They protected her. They moved with purpose and direction. They knew exactly where to go. They moved to the command center of the ship. Teo was in the command center. He was trying to understand what was happening. His weapons did not work. His ship was breaking down. Humans were attacking him from inside his own ship. And it was all happening so fast that he could not stop it. He saw Heijin enter the room. He saw her stand in front of him. She was still small. She was still weak compared to his size and strength. But she was not afraid. She was not alone. Behind her were 20 fighters. They all had weapons. They all had intelligence. They all had strategy. "Commander Teo," Heijin said, her voice steady and clear, "you asked me what makes a true apex predator. Now you know the answer. It is not strength. It is not claws or teeth. It is the ability to adapt. It is the ability to think faster than your enemy. It is the refusal to accept defeat. The Vorzath lost this battle the moment you laughed at us. You underestimated us. And now you will pay the price for that mistake." Teo stepped back. He looked at his hands. He looked at his claws. He looked at all his strength. But he understood now. Strength was not enough. A predator that did not adapt was a predator that would die. "You have won this fight," Teo said slowly. "But there are many Vorzath ships, there are many worlds, you cannot defeat us all." "No," Heijin said. "But we do not need to defeat you all. We just need to survive. And humans are very, very good at survival. This is what we do. This is what we have always done." The command center of the Vorzath flagship was now controlled by humans. Heijin sat in the big chair. Around her, human fighters watched all the screens. They watched the systems. They watched for any sign of danger. But the immediate danger had passed. Now came the hard part. Now came the negotiation. A message came through the communication system. It was from the Vorzath Collective. It was from the High Council of Lords. They wanted to talk to the leader of the humans. They wanted to understand what was happening. They wanted to know why their flagship was now in human hands. Minsu stood next to Heijin. He had come up from the moon to join her on the captured ship. He was proud of what his people had done, but he was also careful. He knew that this was just the beginning. The real battle was about to start. "Tell them we will talk," Minsu said, "but tell them they need to hear what we have to say. Tell them humanity has something to teach the galaxy." Nari appeared on the screen. She was a human diplomat. She was good at finding words that made people listen. She was good at making deals. She was good at understanding what each side really wanted, even when they said something different. She spoke to the Vorzath High Council. She spoke with respect but without fear. "Lords of the Vorzath Collective," she said, "your commander has taught us many things today. He taught us about the strength of your species. He taught us about the power of your weapons. But he also taught us something else. He taught us that true power is not about being the strongest. True power is about being the smartest." The Vorzath lords did not like these words. They sent back a message. "You speak foolishly, human. The Vorzath have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. We have taken what we wanted. We have enslaved those who stood against us. You are nothing. You will surrender your ship and the life of every human on it. You will become slaves. This is your only choice," Minsu smiled. This was what he had expected. The Vorzath thought in only one way. They thought about power through force. They thought about winning through strength. They did not understand that there were other ways to look at the world. "Tell them no," Minsu said to Nari. "Tell them that this ship is now under human control. Tell them that we hold their commander. Tell them that we will trade him for a treaty. Tell them that we demand recognition as a free species. Tell them that we demand territorial rights." Nari sent the message. The response came back faster this time, and it was filled with anger. "You dare to make demands of the Vorzath? You will die for this. You will suffer. We will show your people what it means to defy us." But then Yejun did something interesting. He took control of the flagship's communication system. He sent a message not just to the Vorzath lords, but to every species in the galaxy. He sent recordings of what had happened. He sent proof that humans had defeated the Vorzath. He sent proof that what the Vorzath called predators was wrong. All around the galaxy, other species watched these recordings. Species that had lived under Vorzath rule for thousands of years. Species that had always believed the Vorzath were unbeatable. Species that had lost hope of ever being free. All of them now saw something new. All of them saw that the Vorzath could be defeated. All of them saw that there was another way to fight. Not with more strength, but with intelligence. The High Council of Vorzath received messages from everywhere. Species that they had ruled were beginning to rebel. Species that had paid them money were stopping the payments. Species that had fought for them were putting down their weapons. The Vorzath realized that their power was not just the strength of their fleet. Their power was the fear in the hearts of other species. And that fear was disappearing very quickly. They sent back a message, and this time it was different. "Human leaders, we will speak to your terms. Send a representative to our space. We will negotiate. But understand that this negotiation happens because we choose to negotiate, not because we are forced." Heijin and Minsu looked at each other. They both knew this was a lie. The Vorzath were forced to negotiate. They were forced by fear. They were forced by the understanding that the old way of ruling through force was ending. But it was a useful lie. It allowed the Vorzath to save face, and sometimes in negotiations it was good to let the other side save face. Nari went to meet the Vorzath in neutral space. She brought with her documents and treaties. She brought with her the demands of humanity. She brought with her the proof that humans could not be beaten the old way. The Vorzath lords looked at the documents. They looked at the demands. They looked at the world that was falling apart around them, and they understood that they had no choice. They signed the treaty. They gave humanity territorial rights. They gave humanity recognition as a free and independent species. They gave humanity everything, but more than that, something changed in the galaxy. The age of the Vorzath as absolute rulers was over. The age of might making right was over. A new age was beginning. An age where intelligence mattered. An age where strategy mattered. An age where the refusal to accept defeat mattered. Heijin stood on the bridge of the captured flagship. She looked at the stars. All those stars and all those worlds. All of them would soon know the name of humanity. All of them would know the story of how a small, weak species defeated the greatest predator in the galaxy. And they would all wonder the same thing. If humans could do this, what else could they do? 6 months had passed since the battle. The human colony on the moon had grown. Thousands of new buildings had been built. Gardens grew food. Schools taught children. Hospitals healed the sick. It was becoming a real city. It was becoming a real world for humans. The news of human victory had spread far through space. Every day, new species came to learn from humans. Some came to trade. Some came to form alliances. Some came because they wanted to learn how humans had defeated the Vorzath. Some came because they wanted to understand this new way of thinking about power. Heijin was now famous. She was famous not just among humans, but across the entire galaxy. She had been invited to speak to the Grand Assembly of Worlds. This was the most important meeting in galactic space. Every species sent their leaders. Every species had a voice, and today humanity would have its first voice there. She stood in a large meeting room. All around her were aliens of different shapes and sizes. Some had many arms, some had many eyes, some looked almost human, some looked like nothing humans had ever imagined. They all looked at Heijin with respect. They looked at her with fear. They looked at her with wonder. Members of the Grand Assembly, Heijin began, thank you for this opportunity. 6 months ago, my people were nothing to most of you. We were weak. We were unknown. We were primitive. And you were right. We were all of these things. But being weak does not mean being defeated. Being primitive does not mean being stupid. Humans understand something that many species forgot long ago. She paused. She looked at all the faces. She saw interest. She saw doubt. She saw hope in the faces of species that had suffered under Vorzath rule. We understand that true power is not about having the biggest teeth, she said. True power is about never giving up. True power is about learning from every mistake. True power is about understanding that the enemy of today might be the ally of tomorrow. True power is about survival. Not just for a day or a year or 1,000 years. True power is about survival across generations. That is what humans do. That is what humans have always done on our world. And now we bring that to the stars. The assembly gave her a standing ovation. Species that normally did not agree with each other were clapping and making sounds of agreement. Some Vorzath were also clapping. They had learned their lesson. They had learned what it meant to underestimate an opponent. After the speech, many leaders wanted to talk to Heijin. One of them was unusual. She was a young Vorzath warrior. Her name was Kira. She approached Heijin carefully as if she was not sure she should be there. Heijin, I want to ask you something, Kira said. Her voice was softer than most Vorzath voices. How did your people learn to do this? How did you learn to think like hunters when you are so weak? How did you learn to be predators? Heijin smiled. This was the question that mattered. This was the question that would change the galaxy. On my world, Heijin said, we were not the strongest creatures. There were animals with bigger teeth. There were animals with stronger bodies. There were animals that could run faster. But we survived because we had something they did not have. We had the ability to question. We had the ability to plan. We had the ability to use tools. We had the ability to work together. Most of all, we had the ability to accept that we were not the strongest and to find another way. Kira listened carefully. She understood. So you became predators by being smart, not by being strong. Yes, Heijin said. Every creature in the galaxy is prey to something. The Vorzath think they are prey to nothing, but they are wrong. They are prey to change. They are prey to the new way of thinking. They are prey to species that refuse to accept that they are defeated. Humans alone seem to have no prey. We refuse to accept any limit. We refuse to accept any defeat. That is what makes us dangerous. In the tunnels under the moon, Dr. Kyung-hee was teaching a new class of young scientists. She was teaching them about the genetics of different species. She was teaching them that all species were connected. All species had come from the same origin point billions of years ago. All species were cousins in some way. The Vorzath are not our enemies, Kyung-hee told her students. They are our teachers. They taught us what happens when you think you are superior to everyone else. They taught us that power is not permanent. They taught us that today's king can become tomorrow's servant. The lesson for us is simple. We must never become like them. We must always stay humble. We must always remember that there is more to learn. We must always remember that the only permanent predator is the one that keeps growing. On a launching platform, a new ship was being prepared. It was called the Apex. It was the first human flagship designed to explore deep space. Inside the ship were human scientists, human soldiers, human artists, and human builders. But there were also others. There were Vorzath advisors. There were representatives from other species. There were beings from a dozen different worlds all coming together. Minsu stood on the bridge of the Apex. He looked out at the stars. He thought about how far humans had come. He thought about how much further they would go. Captain Minsu, said a voice. It was Yejun. We are ready for launch. All systems are green. All people are aboard. We are ready to go to the stars. Minsu smiled. Then let's go, he said. Let's show the galaxy what humanity is really made of. The Apex launched into space. It moved past the moon. It moved past the planets. It moved toward the deep darkness of the unknown. And as it moved, Heijin watched from the command center on the moon. She watched the ship disappear into the distance. She knew that this was just the beginning. The Vorsath had laughed at a small, weak human girl. They had laughed at her species. They had laughed at their weakness and their primitive technology. But that laughter had cost them everything. And as Heijin watched the apex disappear among the stars, she knew that the rest of the galaxy would never laugh at humans again. Humans were not prey. Humans were not even hunters anymore. Humans had become something even greater. Humans had become the apex predators, and the age of humanity had only just begun.